On the Wado Radio Show.
Yes, DJ Wado. It's the Wado Radio Show. It's more than music. It's ministry. Welcome to part 2 of our interview with Tim Trudeau of Simtex. Creative, lots of things to get into in this conversation.
Wado Radio.
How did you guys get into distribution, man? Because, like, just keeping it a buck with you, I always felt so when I really started getting into the music industry, and this is kind of before I was a Christian, this was when Rockefeller and so Jay-Z's first label, Murder Inc., Bad Boy, like they were all getting these big imprint deals worth millions of dollars with, Arista and Def Jam and all that. And I always thought, man, if them dudes could just come together and do their own distribution, they wouldn't necessarily need the major labels, and they would be able to much better control how they were getting their music out there. And then obviously there's more money into it. So when I kind of started getting involved in this scene and learn more about what you guys were doing, not just with the record label, but with the distribution and how many people you guys were working with at that time, I was just like, man, that's like so genius. So how did you get into that, bro?
Well, so first and foremost, I didn't like, when I was a kid, I didn't say, man, one day I'm going to start a distribution company.
Sure.
Can't wait. I wasn't thinking about that at all.
You'd have been a genius if you'd had that kind of thought, bro.
Right. So it went like this. We were with Diamante in some of their best years, but also some of their worst years because they went bankrupt twice within our term with them.
Wow.
And so the first bankruptcy they did, we lost all the profits that we were supposed to get for all the records and all the hard work that we had just done. So talking Fashion Expo, our double disc with 36 tracks, over 30 Christian rappers, all in one project, produced in one studio, blah, blah, blah. Like, that was a huge project for us. We sold a lot of those. And so we a lot of this was done, bootstrapping. And so we had this big payday coming from all this hard work. It was, in total, through all the trials and tribulations of Diamante, we were owed $250,000. For us, that was like, might as well have been $1 billion because we were doing everything on the cheap the whole way through. And so basically we never got that $250,000. That money not only would have been ours as a label, but it also would have been the money that would have went to the artists that were working their butts off that we were working with. Including Pigeon John and all that. Like, he would have walked away with a pretty hefty check from us, and been, excited. And so the thing, by that happening to us, there was a couple of things that was happening. My brain was always being wired through the things that were happening. So I always call that like my $250,000 college education, because you can't replace, you can't get that education anywhere else. What was going down and during obviously it was a lot. There was a lot more to it, but just to make it simple, that's what happened. And so 2003, or actually early 2004, I think was the second bankruptcy for Diamante. And so I'm sitting there, I've got all these masters, all this hard work. I'm pretty much ready to quit. I'm like, this sucks. I hate this. God, what's going on? We work our butts off. We're trying to get music that is honoring you out there. We're trying to either edify people that already believe in you, or we're trying to get people to start thinking about you or believe in you. What is the deal? Like, why is it so dang hard? And while I was doing that and contemplating whether I wanted to go on anymore, I did a deal with Apple Computer, who was, launching their little music store. Maybe you've heard of it. And so I did that deal and thought, whatever, I'll just do this in the meantime. I still have all these bills coming in, even though I have no income. And so I didn't even own a Mac. I was always a PC guy. And so I had to go buy a Mac Mini, which was $400 and something or $500. I had to go buy that just to upload music to their store after I did the deal.
Wow.
So I'm already grumbling, like, dang, man, I got to spend some money. I'm already out all this place. So anyways, I did it. I uploaded music. It wasn't a full month. And like 3 weeks later, we got an electronic deposit that covered the Mac Mini and some. And I was like, light bulbs. And so basically, I went around to the other labels at Diamante that had just experienced the exact same thing that we did. I said, look, I know the situation you're in because we're in it too. So here's the deal. We just did a deal with Apple Computer. We put up our masters. We're not even marketing it. And we were able to get money like right away, like fast. Like I don't have to call them and bug them. I don't have to send them paperwork and go through all kinds of hoops to get it. Like they just sent it to me and boom, it was done. So I said, so if you want, we'll put up your masters for you and we'll collect the money, take an admin fee for doing the work and we'll send you a check. And actually Tone was one of our first clients in that as well. Because he had a lot of catalog beyond the stuff on majors and so on. And so even in, 04 when we're doing that, like he's signed to that major, but he has all this independent stuff that he's doing. So we do that deal with Apple and it goes well. Other people come on board. We're sending them checks. They're starting to like feel like there's hope again, because these are all people that have spent maybe hundreds of thousands of dollars of money and then it all gets, taken away from them. So basically Apple saved our business in that regard. And then we started going around and doing deals with a bunch of other digital service providers as well for the same reason. And so distribution was sort of like this side gig that we were doing to keep ourselves afloat and to help out some friends. But now we're 130 record labels. We have like 60,000 songs in our system that we distribute worldwide exclusively. Like it's grown like bananas. So it's my main thing at this point. I don't have time to work with individual artists anymore. I miss it, kind of, because artists can be some of the most difficult people in the world. But like I kind of miss like the creative process of that. But now I really enjoy the creative process of marketing and helping. I still work with artists. It's just on a different capacity. Like we're constantly coming up with marketing strategies for artists that they and their team implement, and we're fixing their social networks and optimizing them, making them make sense and stuff. So still get to do a lot of things, but I'm not actually making songs in the studio like I was. I haven't done that since like 2009.
Sure. Do you guys still work with Central South?
Yeah, definitely. They just sent us Tremaine Dolly, and so that was number one. This yesterday, Billboard announced that as number one gospel album, and we distribute that one. We worked with Tamela Mann for 7 or 8 years. Built her up all the way to the point where Sony was interested in her. So I know she had a career already, but it was
but that take me to the king, bro. That take me to the king, bro.
Yeah, that was our first platinum song in our system. Was that one?
What do you guys offer differently than TuneCore? Because I know a lot of artists do TuneCore. A lot of artists do you guys. What differentiates you guys from TuneCore?
Well, TuneCore is a fantastic option. There's nothing wrong with them whatsoever. They are exactly what they say they are. So you give them some money, and they'll put your songs in all the services, and that's fantastic. It's a great transaction. It works wonders for people who all they want to do is be on the shelf. TuneCore is great. CD Baby is great. Orchard's great. They're all fantastic. The difference with us is we're more engaged. We're more like a record label in that we don't just get your records on the shelf, but we also help you get them off the shelf. And so all the things that we learned as a small little independent Christian hip-hop label, we utilize in bluegrass and gospel and Christian and all these genres that I think a lot of people think, oh, my genre is so special and so different, so it takes a special kind of brain to market them. the reality is, and I think this bothers a lot of people, it's no different. How, like, obviously there's different vocabulary and maybe feels, but the thing that, like, how you accomplish it is all the same. So basically, now that we're able to work with like really big artists, or even artists that do well in other scenes, and we're practicing all the things that we learned on our own label, it's been awesome because we're able to see success faster or better, because Christian hip hop is it's a tough space, man, because for whatever reason, I don't know what it is, but Christian hip hop is terrible about letting their yes be their yes and their no be their no. I don't know what it is, but it's not like, I have had more people not honor contracts in Christian hip hop than anywhere else, and it bugs me because I have such a heart for Christian hip hop, and I want to see it succeed. But half the time, I'm like, I want to, like, if Christian hip hop were a person, I want to, like, grab it on the shoulders and shake it and say, "What are you doing? Like, you're never going to get anywhere because you don't know how to do basic, mature human things. Like, you don't know how to do basic business, or keep your word, or deliver, or have goals and reach them, or anyways, that's just a weird experience in Christian hip hop specific. I'm not saying other genres don't have individual artists that are like that too, but I've just had such.
Why do you think that is? Like, why do you think that is?
Honestly, I do not know. I have theories, like a couple of them just being, and you would think this might be in other genres of Christian as well, but I feel like Christian hip hop has this idea that, like, they kind of spiritualize things in a way that doesn't make sense. So they'll be like, they say things are in seasons, or they say, God's has this for me right now, and so they make it out like God is this person that doesn't keep his word either, or he's like wishy-washy, because one minute God's telling you need to sign to this label, but then the next minute God's telling you need to sign to this label. Well, that doesn't make sense. So they always pull God into it as a crutch and say, this is really God's putting me in a new season, and so really, you guys aren't a fit anymore, and so we're going to go over here, and I think part of it too is there isn't a lot of money in Christian hip hop, at least in terms of other genres. There's obviously individuals that are doing well, but as a whole of a scene, there's not a lot of money going around, and I think that makes it hard for a lot of people can't afford lawyers. So if you're a Christian hip hop label and you have an artist who is saying, "Oh, I'm not going to bring you the record, even though I signed a deal and I owe you $3," and whatever, like, then the label can't really do anything about it. So then that artist gets to go somewhere else and do whatever they want, and then the label can never do anything because there's no money to really deal with it. And again, I'm not advocating suing. That's my theory on why why people get away with it, because you cannot get away with this in other scenarios, like on major labels or places where there's actual money. You wouldn't be able to get away with the things that Christian hip hop artists get away with.
Yeah, no, you're 100%. So let me ask you this. This is something I've thought about a lot. A lot of the critiques that, let's say, Lecrae has gotten over the last 3, 4, 5 years.
Wait, who?
Lecrae.
Who's that?
So here we go. This dry humor of yours. So a lot of the critiques that he's gotten past 3 or 4 or 5 years, in terms of I think the way he's going about doing things in the mainstream, collaborations, all of that kind of stuff. You guys, in terms of Syntax Records, definitely were doing a lot of those types of things when I first started getting involved in the genre. You know what I mean? Like 06, 07, 08. Like, I remember all that stuff with Caboose and even Red Cloud and, all of that kind of stuff. So I would just love to kind of hear your thoughts now on just some of what you guys did then, maybe some stuff you learned from it, and even some of what Lecrae has been doing, and others, not even just him, but even, there's been some others in that space as well.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I would preface everything that I say going forward by this. I don't think there is an always a black and white in the sense that it's always wrong to work with secular people.
Yep.
By the way, I don't actually believe in sacred and secular, but for the sake of our conversation, I understand, and I'm going to use those terms for categorical sake.
Sure.
But so basically, I don't think it's always wrong, and I don't think it's always right. So I don't think you can be, on one side saying, yeah, anytime, anywhere, but then on the other side say, it's always wrong and you shouldn't do that. And I think that when we were doing it, a lot of people who are doing it now were of the position that it's always wrong. Not only in working with secular MCs, but also working with secular producers or secular whatever. Making songs about having a great day at the beach with your family instead of about the appearances of Christ in the Old Testament, right? So I think that first and foremost, that was the time that we lived in, that we were doing it in, was when everyone was telling us it was wrong or bad. So that's what and again, the consumers weren't telling us that. It was the self-appointed powers that be that were other Christian rappers or other Christian labels. So they were telling us it was wrong, but none of them were ever asking us what was our process. How did we do that? How did we decide it was okay or not okay or that kind of thing? And I think that would have been a healthier conversation back then, instead of just saying, you guys are heathens, what are you doing? And the process that I used was, I've been going to the same church for 30 years as of this year. I grew up in that church. I started going there as a kid. And so the father, or the pastor, the senior pastor of that church is actually my father-in-law now for the last 15 of those years. And so not only him, but other pastors of the church have always been heavily involved in what we're doing. And the other people that were working at Syntax or signed to Syntax, a lot of them were at the same church. And so Syntax was really ultimately under a church, a local church that, of course, the public wasn't really aware of that, and I don't think it necessarily mattered in the sense that people needed to know. But that's the way it was. So during that era when we were working with Corrupt, J.O. Felony, Royce the 5'9", Eka Mouse, all these guys, there was a process in which I was meeting with one of the associate pastors of our church. I would meet with him every Thursday, once a week, and I would just walk through the business with him. Hey, this is what we're doing this week. Here's the opportunity that's laid before us. Here's what we're thinking. What do you think? And so we were getting spiritual guidance the whole way through. And again, we're not, the people that we're working with, this guy was in his 60s. He was a Bible professor. He wasn't some hipster who was yeah, that's cool, bro. Let's do it. He was a wise old man. That's the easiest way to say it. Yeah. And so he knew me well. He knew my wife well. He knew our whole team well. And so by the time he would give the thumbs up on a thing, it was after we had gone through it for a time. And so, that was how we were doing it. That was our process. And we didn't get a thumbs up every time. So there's a lot of things that never happened that people don't know about. And I think part of that is just by not having that clear wrong or clear right way of doing things. And I'm not saying that being black and white is wrong or the absolutes are wrong. I'm just saying you can't, for example, Royce the 5'9", when we worked with him, he was on the other side of a lot of stuff, right? He had released a lot of songs and a lot of content.
Yep.
But then he got pulled over for a DUI and he was in jail. At the time that he did that, he released a song called Life with A. Marie. And on that song, most people, if they listen to it right now, they would, if they didn't know who it was, they would actually think it was a Christian hip-hop song. So that was
the space he was in. I got you. He was trying to change his life. He was a dad. He was trying to be a husband.
he didn't want to do this nonsense anymore. So we come along and we think, we have mutual acquaintances, and so we're already in the space where I think he was trying to head, and so we're collaborating, talking, blah, blah, blah. We do a song, and if you listen to the song, it's a good song. Like Royce, it didn't sound anything like what people might think he's going to sound like. And then we do that for a time, and then Eminem comes back along, picks Royce back up, and then boom, his whole content changes almost overnight and immediately. And so maybe people only saw that or noticed that, but that wasn't what was going on at all.
Yeah.
He was trying to get his life back together at that time. And so if you look at like the swing of the pendulum or the trajectory of where he was at, it appeared like he was meeting us over here like a Malice or anyone else, right? And so anyways, maybe the decision would be different if the Eminem thing would have happened around the same time or before, right? It's just, it wasn't. He was clearly trying to pick up the pieces and make things right with his family and stuff like that. So that was a great time for us to be collaborating with him. And I still think it was a good move. And I've actually spoken to him most recently, maybe within a year or two. And so there's, we're not best friends, and I don't think he's going to call me tomorrow or anything, but basically I think there's enough of a relationship there to where if the opportunity ever arises again, who knows, we'll be able to speak into that as well.
Yeah.
So I think that the argument of, like, again, if we did that today and then people go, well, look, now you're driving them to all of his content or recent content that's filthy. And it's like, I understand that argument. And I think that's a serious thing to consider.
Sure.
Especially today where names in digital service providers are clickable.
Yep.
Right? Like when we would drop a CD and ship it out in a bookstore, kids weren't, looking at Royce or Corrupt and then going and buying the next thing because it wasn't there. It wasn't on the shelf.
Yep.
But now, if someone's on your song, you click their name, and you're immediately transported to a completely different world of content.
Literally. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, that's good. I mean, would you it sounds almost like you're saying if it was today, you might have approached those situations differently.
Well, I would approach it in the context of today, which I think is a different context. Here's the thing. This is the issue that I've always had with Christian hip-hop, besides the one about not keeping your word, is most people are a pendulum. So, like, a lot of these guys that get saved, they come in the scene, and then they're super militant or super extreme, right? Yep. They're at the stage of where if you're our age, they're at the stage where you get saved and you burn all your CDs or you throw them all away, right? Everyone goes through that stage. They get saved and they're like, no more, only Christian music. And you know what? I completely think that that's a fine thing, and I think that God can use that and possibly even does. But then as they get more mature in their faith and they start to go, oh man, I missed this one or that one. They start picking stuff up again and going back, or they can listen to things with a filter or differently, right? And so then they start to shift and go all the way back out. And so my thing is this: if people look at us and what we've done, the only thing I want them to see is that we've been consistent since day one. We were never extreme in this direction, and we were never extreme in that direction. We were always, guys that were biblically grounded and were maybe trying a thing here or there, but in general, like, we weren't like, one day it's like, okay, every song theology, go. You know what? We're going to do party songs now because, now we want to be respected by the mainstream. So now we're going to switch in this direction. And so I think that anyone who has that history, and unfortunately, as an artist, your history is recorded. And so people not only see it happen publicly, but they can always go back and they can listen to your old album and go, man, you don't sound the same. And so that's just a real thing that happens. People, they come in, they get super overzealous and passionate and hungry and militant, and then all of a sudden they grow up, they get married, and they start to have fights. They have children. Maybe they have a child who isn't walking, or and as life like kind of materializes and they go through actual hard things and tragedy, they start to realize that faith maybe or life or sanctification looks a lot different than what they thought it was going to look like. And so then their music starts to reflect that.
Yeah. Yo, talk to me about, and I mean, maybe he didn't impact you at all or what you guys were doing, but G. Craig Lewis.
Yeah, so I mean, I was aware, but it really didn't touch us at all, in the sense that I just didn't care, because I felt like we had already had our like thumbprint out there, far greater than his thumbprint ever made it.
Yeah.
So his platform only grew because artists were sharing it and saying, "Can you get a load of this guy?" or "Can you believe this?" or "Hey, this hurts my feelings." And so they'd share it and it would get passed around. But besides that, like the guy had no platform and was not making an impact any way, shape, or form. Like, it was just an individual with a bone to pick. And the internet makes everyone feel like they can do that, I guess. So he didn't really. He was like
the original. He was like the first troll that I remember, bro. Like, I just felt like his whole ministry was just trolling, bro. Like,
yeah. And honestly, like, I'm not even mad at someone who says, "I don't think Christian hip hop is a good idea," or "I don't like it," or "I don't get it." Like, you could say you hate it. Like, you're not going to hurt my feelings on any one of those things.
Sure.
But kind of like those guys from that panel, that panel of white guys that were talking about hip hop and how it's of the devil type thing. Like you can say anything that you want to me, but the moment that you say that it's like not right or not godly, like you've taken your preference and you've made it God's word. And I'm okay with preferences all day. Like, all 4 or 5 of those guys can hate Christian hip hop all day long and talk trash about it, and they're not going to bother me. But the moment that they say that you can't do it, it's wrong, then we have an actual conversation that we need to have.
Well, that's when you become a Pharisee. You become a Pharisee at that point.
Yeah, well, dude, like, me personally, I have preferences, and I'm aware of them.
Sure.
But I have to be aware of what are my preferences and what is God's word, because I have massive preferences for how to worship, but that's just it. They're my preferences.
Yep.
Like, I prefer hymns personally. Now, that's not a biblical mandate. I like them for a few reasons. I like them because they're theologically robust. I like them because I feel connected to church history. They're old. I feel like people were smarter. I mean, not really, but you get what I'm saying. Like, they just said things as songs. But now, like, you have a lot of worship music that's just like, wait, are we talking about God or your boyfriend? Like, I don't know. And so, and I'm not saying that those are necessarily wrong. I think there are certain things that you can pinpoint as wrong, for sure. But in general, my stylistic preferences are not what dictate true worship or not. And I think the same goes for dictate what a platform is or not. But all that said, the moment that someone can only minister with Christian hip hop, I have beef with them too, because for me, it's like Christian hip hop is a tool. But the moment that God takes it away, you ought to be able to continue just the same. And if you can't, then you have a problem.
Yeah, that's good, bro. I want to ask you about streaming, because that's been such a big impact in this industry, and I think, you just being on the forefront of the iTunes music store, like, that story is just insane to me. And even just your involvement in this scene, business wise, for the past 20 years in the music industry. What do you think is the future of streaming? And I know one of the things that a lot of Christian rappers struggle with is replacing that income that used to be generated from CD sales or particularly digital sales. You know what I mean? Whether it was from TuneCore through going through
Right.
you guys or something like that. So, how do you just see that whole thing playing out right now?
Well, there's a few things
Fettle and
to think about. Okay. Well, first and foremost, I get so sick of artists complaining about the good old days and selling CDs and then complaining about streaming, because the first thing is like, look, if I own a hardware store, and everyone quits buying hammers, then change your inventory. Don't sell as many hammers. Sell saws or whatever they're buying. And so what always bothers me is everyone acts like a victim. They act like, poor me, nobody's buying CDs. But here's what people that make music or make art for the purpose of getting people to hear it, sell it, stream it, whatever, they need to understand that the listener or the consumer is the boss. They're the ones that are going to tell you how they want to consume it. And if you don't listen to them, then you're basically killing your own career. You're saying, well, me and my needs or my preferences are so important that I am actually cutting myself out of the conversation. I'm no longer at the table anymore because those consumers are going to go listen to everyone that's making the music available in the way that I like to consume it. So there's a whole philosophy there that drives me nuts about that victim mentality in business or music. But here's the other thing. I don't think artists even understand streaming. I think that they compare streaming, or when they compare streaming and downloads, like that is evidence that they don't even get the economics of it. Like it's apples and oranges. So here's the deal. When someone bought a CD from you, they paid you essentially a license to have that music in perpetuity. So let's say that, just to simplify it, let's say you're willing to part with a CD for $10. Okay, so I give you $10, you give me the CD. Now I can do whatever I want with that CD. I can set it on fire, I can put my coffee on it, or I can listen to it a billion times.
Yep.
And the thing is if I do listen to it a billion times, all you ever got out of me was the $10. You're done. Like that transaction is over, and you have you partake in nothing that happens once the CD is gone. So for a $10, people are selling their soul, and they don't even know it, because here's what's happening. And on top of that, you have to find the people that are willing to give up $10 up front and in one shot. But now there's people who maybe would have never even bought a CD off of you because they're not the type of people to drop $10 on you, but they might listen to your album, and they might even fall in love with you. So here's the thing: when someone streams your album, let's say you drop an album today, and you have one guy that buys it for $10, and then you have another guy who never doesn't buy it, but he streams it for the rest of his life. There is a very likely chance that you're going to get far more than $10 out of that guy. So what would you rather have, $10 now or $1,000 over a lifetime? Or, they're economic questions. They're not.
Yeah, but you know what though? I hear what you're saying. I get what you're saying. But so I'm a DJ. So my music consumption is probably a little bit different than most people. But
sure,
most albums that I've bought over my lifetime. So whether it was when I was buying vinyl or when I was just buying CDs for my personal collection, I didn't listen to them that many times to where the amount of money that artists get for streaming, it's going to equal the same $10 that I gave them when I bought the CD.
Right.
And I think
here's one problem with what you're saying is you shouldn't have been buying the CDs. You should have been getting them for free.
Well, so let me put it to you like this though. Like, I started DJing before Serato, so I got a lot of music free, and I still get a lot of music free. But there's also so that was like new stuff that would come out. But it's like, I started DJing in 1999. and you don't start getting free music until you started doing like real events. So all the music I bought the first year and a half, I bought, right? Then if it wasn't new music, I still had to go back and buy the Eric B. and Rakim records, the Tribe Called Quest, like all of that stuff when I'm doing my throwback sets. So there's that. But even when I got into to doing Christian rap and in the Christian space, yeah, man, I've got a ton of free music over the years, and I'm thankful for all the labels. Look, I can't even quantify how much music you personally have sent me. You know what I mean? So I'm thankful for that. But there's still music that I buy that I may add to a set, whether it's a break beat or it's, it's something old, or maybe it's not a single. It's like nobody's sending albums. I mean, some people do, and I'm thankful for that, but a lot of people don't send albums anymore because they feel like if you want to review it, you can stream it, whatever the case may be. So the flip side is, there's still music that you got to buy, and even stuff that I just buy that I'll never DJ, that I just like. I don't know if I'm playing it enough based on the streaming rates that is $10, man, which is part of the reason why I still buy music personally. But that's me.
So I don't disagree with what you're saying, but I think that you are in a different category than the kind of consumer that I'm talking about. So you have the super fan, which might be a DJ who buys everything because he wants to have everything to play for whatever occasion. So you have that guy. Then you have the person who's dedicated to an individual artist and buys everything they make, their shirts and whatever else, and shows up to the shows. But then you have the rest of Earth, and the rest of Earth is the casual listener, the casual consumer. They may go to a show, maybe not, who knows. But they're certainly not spending, as much money on music as you are or that dedicated fan is to that individual artist. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to capture more people than before, right? Because before you could sell 100 CDs for $10 and make $1,000,
sure.
And now that might be 10 million streams. So yeah, the economics are different, but I would argue that they're better in your favor for a few reasons. And one is that since more people can take a chance on you, and you've lowered the barrier of entry into an artist, you have more ears and eyes than ever before. Maybe the money doesn't hit you the same way that first week, but you have more people paying attention than ever before. And so if you're doing a good job with your social and you're making good music, you have more people potentially to show up to a show than ever before. And then the last thing that drives me nuts is the per stream basis. You have to think of it like this. It's one person listening to the song at one time.
Sure.
Well, just one person. And so a lot of people, they try to compare like airplay or other things or a sync. But here's the thing. When a song is played on the radio, it's served to potentially millions of people at the same time. Mm-hmm. So you better hope that millions of people listening at once is worth more than one person on one computer. And so that one transaction of that one individual, plus it was on demand, it wasn't served to you. You can't compare that to airplay or anything else. So we're excited. Like Pandora, we were the first content provider, period, to do a deal directly with Pandora. Everyone else followed suit, all the majors and all that. But we were the first one to do a direct, and that's because we see the value and we understand that Pandora is giving us more than just money. They're giving us tools to be able to access, 100 million individuals and their listening habits. And so now when I want to go plan a tour for an artist, I can pull up the Pandora dashboard and I can see the top 10 cities that they're being listened to in. And now I'm not like shooting in the dark when I plan a tour anymore. I can actually pick the 10 cities that listen the most and all the other listener habits. I can also use that to help me pick the next single. I mean, like we're living in a completely different time. And so I just always think of in the like let's say this, music is in the middle of an industrial revolution right now.
Yeah.
And if you look back to America's Industrial Revolution. You had these people called the Luddites who were pissed off about all the machines and technology that was being built, and they thought it was taking away their jobs. So what they did is they would run around to the factories and they would set the machines on fire, thinking they're protecting their jobs. But in reality, what they should have been doing is they should have been honing their craft, learning how to fix those machines, because we're going to need mechanics, we're going to need people that install them, people that sell them. And so you have people that see a change, and all they do is they run home with their tail between their legs. But in reality, every time we do a shift, there's like 10,000 new jobs created. And you can, I mean, look, did you see Hidden Figures yet?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, bro. I saw that first week.
Okay, perfect. So a good example of that is, and I don't know if the person behind this, if this was intentional or not, but the lady who learned to program in Fortran language and learn how to use a computer, that's just it. When you're the so-called person that does a job at a business and then they bring in a piece of equipment, you can either be stubborn and get fired, or you can be the person that they have to go to that knows how to do a thing that no one else knows how to do. So you make yourself to where they have to have you.
Sure.
And I think that Christian rap and people are always starting it backwards. Like, they first think that they're God's gift to mankind and everyone needs them, but they're never doing anything that matches that. They're never doing anything that makes it to where people actually do need them. And you look at anyone that's had any level of success in Christian hip-hop, they found a thing and they did it. KJ is an example of that. He found a thing and he became needed. And when he became needed, he was the guy that got the call for certain types of events every time.
Yep.
And so on. And same with CrossFit. And so all we need is people to be those kind of people. They need to figure out, all right, fine. The consumer has decided, they have voted essentially, and they've all voted that streaming is what they want.
Yep.
You still have the DJ widows out there to buy CDs or downloads, and that's fine. Nobody's complaining. But that guy, those people, the super fans, they're not going to power our career. They're going to, I mean, maybe in other ways, like you're playing their music and stuff, right? But they're not going to financially power my career. So I need to look at the lion's share of the money. Where is it at? Where is it being funneled? And how are people voting with their dollars? And so as the consumer has made it very clear, we want streaming, then be the freaking best streamer there is. Be the one that has a Spotify account that's verified, that has thousands of people following it and has playlists that everyone's watching. And if your playlist, go out there and get more followers than the built-in Spotify playlist and so on. And so that's always been our approach. Like, we've always been the tiny little speedboat that's running around in the ocean, and then everyone else acts like the Titanic. They see the iceberg up ahead, and they're like, oh, darn, we can't do anything about it, so we're just going to run into it. There's no time to turn. But we're always like, like Spotify, I did a deal directly with Daniel Ek, the CEO of Spotify, who's like kind of a celebrity now, but we caught on early. We did a deal way before they came to the U.S., way before anyone had even heard of them, because when I saw it, I said, man, this isn't just a music service. This is a social network. This is amazing. And so I'm on board. Like, I get it. I want to go along with them, and I love it. So I just think the hardest job I have these days is convincing artists to be more savvy economically and to stop being victims. But the ones that are victims, they're going to fall by the wayside. That's just the way it is.
Sure. Yeah, I don't. So I'll say this, bro. I hear what you're saying, and I understand. For consumers, it's a better proposition. Look, I have a Spotify. And an Apple Music, bro. So I'm not anti-streaming,
right?
But I also I understand the economics of the independent artist who doesn't have a ton of resources, who putting that album out, people buying it, and it helping to fund the next project, right? And now that is essentially taken away, and they're trying to figure out how to fund that next project. Like, bro, that's frustrating. So, yeah, you can say, well, man, they reach so many more people with stream. Absolutely. Like, that's great. When YouTube hit, the same thing happened. Like, you reach more people. But like it literally took a revenue stream from them. And we're saying, well, man, on the long term, it'll help. And yeah, you get so much more data. You can figure out where to tour, and maybe it'll help you sell merch better, maybe. But yo, it's still a game changer, particularly for independent artists. And we're talking artists whose best skill set was making music.
Yeah.
Not like you have some guys that's natural entrepreneurs, but if your best skill set was making music, right, and that's what you really want to focus on, now you're telling me, man, I got to figure out how to sell merch, how to tour better, how to, you know what I mean? And it's like, yeah, like they can do that, but it's like that's not what you the best at. You know what I mean? Like, for instance, what I'm really good at is DJing. I had to figure out how to do podcasting, because nobody was going to give me a show on the radio in New York. They still haven't. Nobody was going to give me that where I could just play Christian hip hop music. So I had to do something else, and I had to figure it out. And that's not to say it's hard though. It's difficult. So I get it. I'm not saying they shouldn't get with it, but I'm just like, man, like it's a tough pill to put people in that space, man. When that's not,
All right, I'll give you one more example, and then I'll let it go.
Sure.
Okay, so I agree with everything that you're saying. I agree that it's challenging. I agree that there might be people that are only good at making music, all that. I completely agree with that. So I think that one of the first businesses that I had was a pager business. So what I did was I was in high school, and so I was selling pagers to all my friends, right? Because we're high schoolers, we want pagers. This is great. They're affordable, and so that was fantastic. But then cell phones, cell phones were for like rich businessmen when I was doing this, right?
Yep.
So, but like regular dudes could afford $7 a month for a pager. So we had, we grew that thing fast. And so anyways, it was a great business. But then cell phones started to come down in price and become more affordable. They made cheaper models, and they made stuff for regular people. And so you had more and more regular people getting cell phones and less people wanting pagers. So at that point, my decision is this: am I in the pager business, or am I in the telecommunications business?
Sure.
If I'm in the telecommunications business, then I obviously move to cell phones. But if I'm just in the pager business, then I'm out of business in the next few months. And I think with music, it's the same thing. Are you in the CD business, or are you in the music business? Are you in the download business, or are you in the music?
Sure. I think, man, so this is the thing though, bro. You like, even the reason why you can articulate this the way that you do is like you're a natural entrepreneur. Like that's really who you are. Like the fact that you had a business in high school selling pagers, like you're an entrepreneur, bro. You know what I mean? All of us aren't that. Like I have training in being an entrepreneur from getting a master's degree. So like I also understand I have I view the world differently than a lot of people. But most artists, man, they're not entrepreneurs, bro. That's why this is difficult for them. Cause it's like the rules keep changing in the game, and the independent artists aren't the ones making the rules. It's the major labels that keep adapting the rules. I mean, cause the reality is we got to this whole streaming thing because of Napster. Like the people say, yo, we want MP3 downloads. Okay. Napster pops up. The labels work to shut that down. Boom. iTunes pops up. Then the major labels and the streaming and Apple and some of the streaming companies say, well, man, this would be easier and more profitable if we just get the people to pay a standard rate every month. So then you get that. That doesn't benefit. Like a lot of those major labels, like you even got to think, why would the major labels even agree to it? Because they got big checks to do it.
That's what my thought is always. If that were true, then why do you care so much about the streams or anything else? Because if we're just doing this to reach people, and that's fine, I don't care why someone's doing it. But if that's true, then I think, well, okay, then why do you care if that's going down? And again, I'm not saying that selling a download or selling a CD means that you're in it for the money, but
Sure.
But the money is always going to shift. It's always going to change. So it's are you what is the product? Is the product the CD, or is the product your song. And if it's the song, if the product is the song or your show or you yourself, then you need to figure out what's the delivery mechanism.
Yeah.
And if it's a ministry or a business, they both need to keep their lights on. I think that's a false dilemma anyways when people act like it's one or the other, but that's besides the point. Both of them need to keep their lights on, and so you have to figure out what the delivery mechanism is. And everyone's having to do that. Pastors that have these international ministries where they sell books,
sure,
and tapes and all that, they're all having to figure it out too. The podcasts are free now.
Yep. And
they used to be on Christian radio, which was they had to pay to have their show on there, and then they would try to get donors.
Right.
Nobody's donating anymore. So was it ever really about getting out God's word, or was it about building a freaking empire? Right. I mean,
sure.
So, anyways,
I think I think you're dead on with that. I remember. I mean, this is a while ago now. Like, I remember even when John Piper just said, "Yo, we're not going to pay to be on Christian radio anymore. Like, we're just doing everything on the internet because 90% of our people are on the internet anyway." You know what I mean?
Right.
And he just made all his sermons free. I mean, they still obviously, I guess they still have a donor base and everything that kind of funds everything, and he sells his books and speaking and all of that. But I mean, it's the reality of it, bro. It's the reality of it. I think for me, man, I'm sympathetic because I understand everybody doesn't have the same kind of thought process that guys like you and I have that are either trained entrepreneurs or natural entrepreneurs or who have been like legitimately running different types of businesses for over 20 years. You know what I mean? So I get it. I get it though.
Yeah.
I get it, man.
And I'm not trying to be insensitive to them, but I kind of feel like they need a little bit of a swat on their butt to get going too. Sure. Because I care about this. I care about it. I've given almost the majority of my life up for Christian hip hop, either as a consumer or a producer or a label. So like I care about it, and it's something to steward. And there's no official leaders of this thing. It's not a parachurch, and it's not a church, and it's not an organization. It's just a genre of music. So with no official leadership. So I care where it's going. I want it to do well, and so part of all of that is the guys that are especially gifted at communicating. I want them to get off their butt and stop whining about the changes and just start learning how to use the new things, like you're doing a podcast or what's next, and then don't get so stuck on a podcast that if something else comes along that you give up, because you were never in the podcast business either. You love Christian hip hop and you love communicating, great music for people to check out, and you shouldn't stop just because people quit listening to podcasts.
Oh heck no. But yeah, podcast is booming right now. I've never had more listeners than I've had now, but you're right. You're definitely right. You always got to evolve, man. I mean, that's the reality of it. You always got to evolve. You know?
Yeah. Adapt or die.
Hey, that should be on a t-shirt right there, bro. That should definitely be on a t-shirt. So, man, what's next for you, man? What are you working on right now, man? And what's coming down the pike for you, bro?
That's a good question. So one of the things that's going on right now that I feel supremely guilty over is that I'm super bored, because syntax has gotten to the point where it runs well, and it's no longer a struggle. And I do better when I'm struggling. I like the fear of, if I don't go hustle my butt off today, this thing's going to fall apart. I love that. I love the grind and all of that. And so this thing is, 20 years in, and it runs itself now. I mean, I still obviously work all day, every day, but I want to build something else, and I don't know what that is yet. So that's where I'm at. I'm ready for my next thing, and that doesn't mean that I'm going to quit syntax or get rid of it. It just means the thing runs so smoothly now that I have bandwidth to launch something else, and I just need to figure out what that is.
Man, you're such an entrepreneur, brother.
Honestly, this is obviously the longest running and most successful business, but I've had, like I told you, the pager business, and I've had so many businesses, man. I love it. I love it. Like I want to have a restaurant someday. And the thing is that's probably the hardest business to be in. So I should probably run away from that. But just like the government regulations and permits and all the nonsense there, and the margins are so small. But I think that my problem is anytime I go out to eat at a restaurant, like I can't just sit down and enjoy myself. I'm thinking about all the things they're doing wrong and terrible and how I would do it. And I'm like, I just think, man, I'm just gonna open a restaurant. But what a mess. That would be so much work.
Yeah, I got one of my homies has a restaurant, and it's hard, man. It's hard. His food's amazing, but it's hard, and it's you definitely got to have the right amount of capital. Like, it's not really one of those businesses where you can be skimpy on financing it if you want to do it a certain way, you know? Like, it's hard to cut those corners, because if you start cutting corners on how you know, with food and all of that, like, it's tough, man. It's tough, bro. It's definitely tough, man. Well, Tim, man, you know, we could do this like all day, bro. And this is definitely this might be 3 parts, bro.
Oh, okay. Wow. Sorry about that.
It's all good, bro. This was good stuff, man. I think, I think people that really care about this genre, particularly from a historical standpoint, they eat these interviews up, man. Eat these kind of conversations up, because so much of this stuff is not, like, a lot of it's not documented really in easy to find places, you know? So.
Hey, can I prophesy real quick?
Please.
Cool. I'm kidding, by the way, for all my Reformed friends. So whoever comes out in Christian hip-hop next, who is unashamedly Christian and is also extremely skilled on the microphone, they have next. It's that easy. It's wide open for the taking right now, because everyone is making the same song over and over again right now. And there's not one guy, and I'm talking about people that are coming out that are new. There's a lot of guys that have been around for a while that are really talented, but there's nobody coming out new right now that is mind-blowing. So the first guy, and it's because, you know, mumble rap, trap, all that stuff, like, is garbage. I'm just going to say it's garbage. And so the next guy that comes out that can actually spit, is actually talented on the microphone and unashamedly Christian, he's got next, because all those consumers that put Lecrae or anyone else on the map, they're waiting, they're hungry, they want to buy, they want to invest in somebody, and they don't have anyone to invest in right now, because everyone's making the shift to the mainstream, and what that's doing is it's creating an insane vacuum, and then the only people that are, you know, kind of unashamed are not that, they're either not that fresh or they're not that new, so it's not exciting.
Yeah, I think there's 2 people that I think are kind of feeling it. 2 movements headed by 2 people that's kind of feeling it right now. But I definitely feel you. I definitely think that there's a space that's open right now that nobody's really occupying at the moment. But I think there has to be, let me say this though, I think there has to be something more exciting than them about just making good music though. Like, I think I think there has to be, because like one of the things that I think was that helped Lecrae, I think one of it was the Reformed theology, because I think that pulled in a lot of people. Like, one, it was interesting to basically minorities who had never been exposed to that, right? So he's literally saying something new that you haven't heard, but then it also pulled in a group of people who were never engaged to begin with, and they were excited because they're like, man, I can ride to this Jesus music because this is easy to understand.
Yeah, literally. No, you're right. The only reason I said that was because I think the bar is so low right now that it's like, it's ready to go. And I would even say, and this makes a lot of my friends mad, but I would even say, I would call it the Kendrick effect, because Kendrick is very talented, but if he were to come out in the 90s or, early 2000s, I don't think he would have stood out nearly as much, because there were a ton of people that were coming out that were amazing. And so, like, if you put him in a group of a bunch of other people that are really talented and great, then it's like, cool, another great rapper. But when you come out when there's not a lot of great stuff going on, it like stands out. Like there's such a contrast. And so I think the reason why people have gotten so behind him is because there's nobody else right now that's, just that fresh of an MC. So anyways, that makes people mad. But again, just don't think, just think just a little bit back, and you had, Busta Rhymes or all these guys that could rap. Like they could rap. And so it's just not, nobody raps right now. They just kind of say things, anyways, whatever. So
I got you.
Next guy that's just basically good is going to stand out, and that's terrible.
Yeah. I agree with you, bro. I agree with you. It's going to be interesting to see who it is.
All right.
Hey,
it's going to be you.
Nah, it's not going to be me, bro. You don't want me spitting those bars. Unless you're going to put me out. Now, if you tell me you're going to put me out and market me, then I might go do an album.
All right. That's a deal.
It's a deal?
Yeah.
You want me to make a fool of myself out here, Tim. And you gonna help fund it. Crazy.
Man, thanks for your time, though, for real, because I like Christian hip-hop and I like talking about it.
Nah, I know you do, man. Appreciate you, bro.
On the Wade Radio Show. On the Wade Radio. On the Wade Radio Show. Where it's much more than music, it's ministry.